If you look at your ROAS over the last couple of years and you start to see it falling, that's because fraud is growing each year, and it's getting to the point where it's going to make your campaign not worth running.
Well, hey, welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. And in today's episode, I am delighted to introduce you to Rich Kahn. Rick is a digital marketing veteran and serial entrepreneur with over 31 years of experience in the industry, which is remarkable because he's only 40 years old. He is the co-founder and CEO of ezanga.com and anura. And Rich has established himself as a leading expert in digital advertising and fraud prevention. I'm so excited for this show because I have all kinds of nerdy questions for you as a digital marketer and advertiser and someone who teaches it. His journey began back in 1993, and since then he's built 5 multi-million-dollar internet companies through bootstrapping, which means he didn't get outside investment. That's incredible, Rick. Wow, what a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, so good. Catch me up on this concept, this idea of fraud prevention with advertising. Why is it necessary? Is this something that, honestly, I go to a lot of marketing events and I talk to a lot of nerds in marketing. This is a topic that is not discussed, probably not enough. I'd love to hear, what is it? Why is it such an important thing for us to talk about today?
All right, well, let's paint a picture on it, okay, because everybody likes numbers. So last year, and you probably know the statistic, the digital marketing sector as a global whole spent over $700 billion in digital marketing, which is huge. That's a big number, and that's across all digital marketing. So that's your connected TV stuff, your programmatic, your search, your social, all these different influencer marketing, all the different channels you can possibly spend money on. It was over $700 billion was the estimated amount that I got off of some resource. Based on our data, to paint a picture on fraud, last year was $140 billion lost to fraud. That's like 22% of every dollar spent was lost to fraud. And people don't realize this. People get online and they spend money with different sources and they're like, my cost per acquisition isn't quite what I want. It is what it is. I'm just going to have to deal with this. And they get used to it. And people get used to certain things, especially because fraud has been creeping up slow and steadily. But I always talk about it. When I talk to a company, I say, okay, we scan their network. Let's say they have the average of 25% fraud. We catch 25% fraud. They know they have a problem. There's something going on there. What's going on? And I always tell them, what's your number before you shut down? And they go, what do you mean? I go, how much fraud would it take for your business to be non-viable? We all know if it was 100% of the traffic that you were buying and selling was fraudulent, it would shut you down. But there's a number before that. And how fast are you getting there? And what are you doing to prevent that? And AI is out now, and a lot of people don't talk about this, but we all use ChatGPT for all kinds of uses. It was kind of neat. My wife took a picture of our hallway because we wanted to put some decorative molding up and asked for ChatGPT to come up with the design. And oh my God, the stuff it came up with is amazing, right? So it's just kind of cool, rearrange the furniture in this room, and it comes back with a couple different designs, and one looks really cool. But did you know about Fraud GPT? There's a new software out there, AI-driven, that will actually write bots to basically defraud advertising. And if you're not that technical, you'll ask it how to install and run this, and it'll tell you step by step how to run it, where to go, what to set up, and how to get the thing launched. And it's able to identify weak points in all kinds of networks very fast. And some of the stuff we're catching now is I don't believe every company out in the marketplace is catching this kind of stuff. It's just going unnoticed. It looks real, feels real user interaction. So if you're recording the screen using Microsoft Clarity Insights or Hotjar or something like that, it looks like it's a real person, but in the end, it's a fraudulent visitor who's basically stealing your marketing budget.
Wow. Okay. So unpack
I'll sit a lot there.
little bit more for me. Can you give us an example of what advertising fraud actually looks like? How do you, because these are significant numbers, 25%. I don't do math in public very well, but just quick math on the 700, it sounded like it was close to 20% of the total spend. Help me understand what that really means. What does it mean when we consider advertising spend has been wasted due to fraudulent activity? Like, what kind of activity? How is that even happening?
So there's a couple ways of identifying it. Basic ways that, are not a foolproof. Like our system we built is designed to find as much fraud as possible with the accuracy level that you need. But for example, most people don't look at this, but if traffic comes from a data center, generally that's fraud. Now, you got to be careful because some people use VPNs. And VPNs, bounce off of data center in order to give you that virtual private network, so you can bounce off and maybe watch Netflix when you're overseas. So there are some legitimate purposes of it, but most people realize that when you're using a VPN, it slows your network, your internet connectivity down because it's got to bounce off another server, go to the server, get the data, come back, and bounce back to you. So most people don't generally do that unless they're using a VPN to get into a back-end, environment like a private network or something that they don't want people seeing. So security is more important than speed. But when you're on the internet, generally speaking, and as a marketer, speed is everything. You want your site nice and fast, everything's quick. Otherwise, the audience nowadays drops off if it takes 2 seconds for your site to load. So speed is everything. So most people don't generally use a VPN. So we're a certified fraud solution through TAG, which means that we're certified to follow the industry standards for a fraud detection company. And one of those things, they basically tell you, if it comes from a data center, you're supposed to mark it as fraud. Now, how many people look at the IP addresses and identify that?
And forgive my very layman desire here, but if we were to explain this to somebody who's maybe just now starting into using the web and doing digital marketing, like they're stepping into ownership, why would a data center send all that traffic to their website? What is it? What's the end goal? What are they trying to accomplish by sending all of that fraudulent traffic?
The idea at the end of the day is they're trying to make money. So let's look at it this way. From over 30 years of experience in the internet, I've got 2 truths about the internet that I talk about all the time. One, people don't read, they skim and scan, looking for information, and eventually when they find what they're looking for, they'll read. So that's why your titles are important, not the body, but the titles are important. You want to capture their attention. I mean, even come out with a TRTD or something like that. It's too long to read. So they have those little blurbs because people don't like to read full content. They want to skim and scan, get the information they want. Then when they want details, they'll drill in. Again, it's important. The second thing is if you pay people on the internet to do something, the cheaters will find a way to cheat. I like there's a story, it talks about fraud, but it talks about fraud in different ways. I don't know if you remember this back in the day when PayPal first came out. They wanted to try to grow the network, so they decided to become for an affiliate network. So basically, if you sign up for an account, and you refer somebody else that signs up for an account, and the only request was they had to sign up for an account, you get paid $5. So it was affiliate-based marketing back. This was early on, right? So here's where it gets complex. There was an 18-year-old, if I have the story correct, there was an 18-year-old that came up with an idea who was going to do a pyramid scheme using PayPal. So essentially, if you signed up to a software, basically it says, okay, you sign up for PayPal, now you refer somebody to it. They would keep track of everything. And it says, when you sign up, you have to pay $1 of the $5 to this person, $1 to this person. Like they had the whole thing laid out. And in a short period of time, he took over $1 million in cash out of the system while paying other people money to commit this pyramid scheme using the $5 that PayPal was paying. And it happened in like 2 months. It was so quick. PayPal had to shut the whole thing down because they didn't know what was going on and where. But that's this example of fraud. He was getting paid to do something, $5 for signing up an account, and he found a way to cheat the system. So it's the same way, like, let's take it down to the marketing side of things. And we use Google because they're a big target, big company, right? A couple hundred million dollars a year. No, I'm sorry, $200 billion a year. All right. Getting my math screwed up here, right? So essentially, they're a big player, big space. Everybody spends money on Google. But do most of the audience know that Google doesn't generate all the traffic that you buy from them? Remember when you're setting up a campaign, there's a little checkbox that's pre-checked that says include partner networks? Well, that means the majority of your traffic coming from that campaign is going to come from their partner network. Now, there is a sector of the internet where there are literally thousands, or I should say millions of websites out there driving traffic to Google that get paid for driving clicks to Google and get paid a percentage of the click. There's a whole area of people that do this type of marketing.
Thinking about clicks, you're just like watching things click into my head. If you've got this data center, this data that's farming out all these clicks to these partnered networks. It's replicating ad traffic that never occurred, but the business pays for that impression. They pay for those clicks, even though they weren't real. Am I tracking right?
Yes. So going back to the first question, just to clarify that up, when you connect to the internet, right? How do you connect? You connect through your ISP, your Verizon, Fios, your cell phone. Your device connects to the internet, and it's a device on the internet. If traffic comes from a data center, that means a server, because a data center houses servers, a server is acting like a real person connecting to your site, which is not real. Mm-hmm. On the rare occasion you have a developer that might be plugged into the cloud, into the server farm, might be surfing the web. That's a rarity. For the most part, if it's coming from a data center, and you can know this because the data center owns the IP address, but that belongs to that data center where all the servers exist. So if you can identify that the IP address belongs to a server farm or a data center, another term for it, then you know it's not real. With a 99.99% accuracy rating, it's not real. So how many people actually look at every single click that came to the website, researching every single IP address that came to the website? You can do it. And if you're suspecting stuff, there's ways and free tools out there to help you do this. But at the end of the day, I mean, you want to look at it. If you got a client that's got, 100,000 clicks, 1 million clicks, how do you do all that work? You got to have some automation. And that's kind of what we step in and help do. Because that's just one aspect, and that's not even the most craziness. I mean, there are actually human fraud farms around the globe that will spoof the IP address, make it look like it's coming from somebody's, Verizon Fios box out in Middletown, Delaware. They'll use that IP address, bounce off that. They'll spoof their device ID and make it look clear. And then, of course, they got a human behind it, so the actions, the recordings, if you're looking at recordings, all look real. How do you identify that? It's getting, and then of course now you have AI. We talked about AI getting involved. AI is doing all this stuff, making it look even more real. So what's happening is your ROAS, which we all know as return on ad spend, is starting to fall. Little by little, year by year, that climbs. And it's going to eventually,
because the cost of all this traffic is getting distributed among all of the buyers of the advertising, right? And it's just getting kind of passed on to the end business.
And then your ROAS falls. Yeah, and your ROAS falls. So what happens is, one of the signs is you start looking at, especially if you've been doing a campaign or running a group of campaigns for the last couple of years for the same company, if you look at your ROAS over the last couple of years and you start to see it falling, that's because fraud is growing each year, a couple percentage points every year. And it's getting to the point where it's going to make your campaign not worth running. Eventually, and I'm predicting this, if we don't get a handle on fraud and it continues to grow exponentially like it's been over the last 10 years, 20 years, it's going to eventually shut down one company at a time. Because let's face it, if you're buying from Google right now, and Google does a decent job of cleaning up the traffic, I still see about an average of 10% fraud coming from Google. Let's say they stop working on it, right? And that 10% became 20%, became 30%. What percentage does it have to be before the average advertiser stops spending money with them? I can't tell you how many people I talk to on a regular basis. Like, my goal is to drive traffic to my site and have them fill out a form so I can get them on the phone and sell them a product, right? Whatever the product is, car insurance, a widget, it doesn't matter. How many of those leads that they get are filled out that are fraudulent or spam? Nobody answers the phone. The email bounces back, or the email, nobody ever responds. The response rate gets less and less. And what happens eventually, you get to the point where it doesn't make sense. So your ROAS is non-existent or negative, and you decide, I'm going to stop advertising on this source, whether it's Google, Facebook, it doesn't matter, whatever the source might be, and you stop spending money there. What happens if that happens globally? Digital marketing is going to change significantly in some fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. So goodness, I know I've been doing digital marketing for about the last 6 years. First couple of years of my business was very word of mouth. Really got serious about it about 6 years ago. And, we've done a good amount of digital spend. But I did notice, I was like, I've got to really filter for, is this email verified? Is this like a real email that belongs to an actual person? Already, even just, and I consider my business to be relatively small in the space. So, Rich, what would you say newer business owners or even smaller business owners who perhaps are like, I got so many things to worry about? It sounds like a macro problem, but it also sounds like it could be a real micro problem. Like it could actually devastate a small business. What would you recommend that they have in place as good practices to guard against the fraudulent activity if they can, or just be proactive in their design of their marketing and what it is that they do. Like, what are some of the things that they could do, even if they feel like they're a little tight, bootstrapped?
Bootstrap, look, this is what I've done over the last 3 decades. I mean, everything's been bootstrapped. So one of the first recommendations I'll make, and this is fine when you're small, but you can't sustain it because as you grow, you need more traffic and you need to find it. So when you're building that campaign in Google, uncheck that partners.
Don't do preferred partner
pages.
Networks.
Don't do that. Don't start off there, and don't do the display either. Digital display, even on Google Display Network, averages 50% fraud. So you want to stay away from that initially.
Okay.
We have tested programmatic networks across the internet from publicly traded companies. I won't mention names, but publicly traded companies. And every programmatic network, so if you're going to do a programmatic buy, just know that 50% of your traffic is going to be fraudulent. If you're going to play in that space and you have the money to play there, you need a company like us to help you identify where it's coming from and how to avoid it. But if you're a smaller network and you're going to start on Google, great source to start with. Facebook, good source to start with because they don't have outside networks like Google does. Still have fraud because people buy, you've heard of fake accounts on Facebook, right?
Totally.
So what do? In order to evade being shut down, because Facebook's very vocal about shutting down fake accounts, they do all the stuff that people would do as a real user to keep their fake accounts on so they can make money outside of, indirectly. For example, you can go to Fiverr, I think, and still buy 10,000 likes to your new website that you just created for $100 or $50 or whatever they charge. And they do that using the fake profiles that they have on Facebook. So they still have fraudulent traffic there. But if you hit those two sources, they generate around 10% fraud. So it's not going to kill you, but when you start spending some money, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, that 10% really adds up. And then at that point, you can afford a service like us to be able to help you jump in there and solve those problems. But when you're small, stick to the big boys, Facebook, Google. Make sure you uncheck the box on Google to get the cleanest possible traffic and ride that for as long as you can. But the nice thing is, even the smaller players, we have a relationship with one of our clients. We can send small clients to, and you just pay by the scan. So it's really inexpensive. I think they're charging 2 or 3 cents per visitor scanned, and there's no minimum. So like you can go there, and hey, you're only buying 100 visitors from Google, and you're spending $200-300. You can still use that. We can still make the recommendation to them, and they'll work with you as you're growing your business. So it's a great, we realize that our support department costs too much to be able to offer it on a basis like that. But when you're first getting started out, look, we forgot. I bootstrapped 5 different companies from the ground zero. You got to find the ways to make it work. So we built a relationship with one of our customers to be able to set that up and support the smaller customer so they can still get great technology without blowing the bank.
I love that. And dear listener, listen to how Rich is talking about, he's like really focused on what he does in his business, but he's using relationships to be able to serve people, more broadly and really keeping his eye on the prize. So I just really wanted to call that out because I think a lot of the people that I work with, they want to do everything for everybody all at once, all the time. And that is the fastest path to burnout. Rich, I feel like it'd be amazing to have you back at some point to talk about how does one go about bootstrapping multiple $1 million businesses. But sadly, I think we may be out of time for our appointment today. But if people wanted to follow you, find out more, what's the best way to do that?
So I'm going to give you 2 quick resources, which I know are going to be in the show notes. But I'm easy to follow on LinkedIn. I'm posting video snippets all the time. I've got all kinds of stuff and then I publish, stuff about fun stuff like my family growing and my grandkids and, as things are happening and growing in my life, just to kind of mix it up so it's not just all work, right? All work and no play makes Johnny a dull boy, right? So we want to have a little fun on what we post. So post some fun stuff too. But if you want resources, you want to learn about this space, you want to learn any information, just go to our site. We probably have a dozen ebooks on there you can download. We have articles that are coming out probably 2 or 3 a week. Plenty of resources on there. And then if you want to talk to one of our fraud specialists, you can click book a demo, and they'll walk you through how it all works. And like I said, if need to, if our pricing model doesn't work for you guys, we can direct you to our other client that will be more than happy to take you on, especially as a startup, get you started, get you growing, and then if it makes sense down the road, then we'll work together. If not, that model works for you, that's great. But there's a lot of resources just between the LinkedIn and our website direct would be good.
Yeah, I can't wait to nerd out on your website. It sounds like you've made it very resource rich, and like just even this short episode has been so educational. So I can't wait to dive into those details in a deeper way. Rich, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to teach us something so valuable.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm happy to come back anytime and we can go into bootstrapping 101.
Sounds like a plan, man. I love it. And dear listener, if you love this, the best way to say thank you is to pass it on, pass it forward. If you have like 3 friends that have been wanting to, expand their digital marketing footprint, their digital presence, you should definitely send this to them, because I know I didn't just incidentally bump into this in many different masterminds. I've learned a lot of digital marketing over the last 8 years, and this topic is very, very important. And, ROAS is king. Like, we want to make sure that we're getting our return on our advertising and our marketing efforts. So make sure you grab the link to this episode, text it over to your friends, send it through Messenger, however you happen to share your stuff, just send it over to them so they can have a quick listen. And hey, if you can take 30 seconds more, leave a review of the show, because if you do that, then when people are trying to decide whether to listen to us or something else, they might just choose us, and we always appreciate a great review. And finally, make sure you hit subscribe yourself. Don't miss another episode, and until the next one is out, do what matters.